Rain had darkened the cedar porch by the time I reached my son's house outside Portland. My shoulders throbbed from the flight. My right knee was stiff from sitting too long, and the handle of my suitcase had rubbed a raw spot into my palm. 3 days earlier, Nathan had called sounding breathless and desperate. "Mom, please come for Thanksgiving. We need you here. The kids keep asking about you." At 67, widowed and happily settled in a small town in Vermont, I did not enjoy holiday airports. Still, he was my only son. I bought an expensive last-minute ticket, packed a wool coat, and told myself the inconvenience was worth it if the family truly needed me. The front door opened before I knocked twice. Nathan stood in the hallway beside his wife, Brianna. Neither of them moved to hug me. 2 glossy suitcases waited by their feet, along with ski jackets and a pair of expensive overnight bags. Behind them, 7-year-old Owen and 4-year-old Lily sat on the floor watching cartoons. Nathan pointed toward the children as if giving instructions to a delivery driver. "You'll stay with them until Sunday. We booked a couples retreat near Mount Hood." Brianna laughed and pulled her hair over one shoulder. "Their schedule is on the kitchen counter. Please don't let Lily live on cookies just because she gives you that face." For one silent second, I thought there had been a misunderstanding. "You asked me to come because the family needed to be together." Nathan avoided my eyes. "We do need family. We need someone we trust with the kids." Brianna lifted the handle of her suitcase. "You're already here, Evelyn. It worked out perfectly." They smiled at each other, not warmly, not nervously. They smiled the way people do when a trick has succeeded. I looked at my son and understood that he had planned every part of this. The urgent calls, the guilt, the expensive flight, even my exhausted arrival. He expected me to complain, perhaps cry and then surrender because I loved my grandchildren. I placed my suitcase beside the wall. "Enjoy the drive," I said. Nathan blinked. He had prepared for resistance, not calm. "That's it?" "That's it." They hurried outside before I could change my mind. Brianna called over her shoulder that Owen's soccer uniform needed washing. Nathan added that the trash went out Friday morning. Then the door slammed, the engine started, and their taillights disappeared into the wet gray afternoon. I locked the door behind them. Owen looked up from the rug. "Grandma, are you mad?" "Not at you, sweetheart." Lily ran over and wrapped both arms around my legs. I bent to kiss the top of her head. Whatever I decided, the children would not carry the shame of their parents' behavior. The kitchen told me the rest of the story. Plates crusted with dried food filled the sink. Laundry covered half the dining table. Sticky fingerprints marked the refrigerator. Beside the coffee machine sat a lavender clipboard with my name written across the top. Brianna had prepared 4 pages of instructions. Breakfast at 7 sharp. Lunch packed even though school was closed. 2 loads of laundry each day. Mop the mudroom. Change the guest room sheets after I slept in them. Clean the upstairs bathroom because, as she had written, guests should leave spaces better than they found them. At the bottom, she had added a cheerful note. "You'll be such a help." I set the clipboard down. Nathan's tablet lay nearby with the screen still awake. An email confirmation filled the display. 3 nights at a luxury lodge, a suite with a fireplace, private dinners, massages, and a champagne package. The cost was more than my entire trip. I would have closed the tablet, but the payment line caught my eye. The last 4 digits belonged to an account I knew very well. 5 years earlier, after my husband Robert died, I created a joint emergency fund for Nathan. I deposited money for medical bills, major home repairs, or anything that might protect the children. My name stayed on the account because I had opened it, though I rarely checked it. During the previous few months, the balance had dropped several times. Nathan told me Owen needed dental work and that their furnace was failing. Now I saw what my money had actually purchased. Not braces, not heat, spa robes and mountain views. I opened my banking app. The emergency account held $8,412. I transferred $8,400 into my personal savings and left $12 behind. Then I removed the account from overdraft protection so it could not drag money from anywhere else. My hands did not shake. Next, I logged into the family phone plan. Nathan had complained about bills 6 years earlier, so I had quietly paid for his and Brianna's lines ever since. I suspended both numbers, leaving the children's emergency watch active. I was not punishing them in anger. I was ending services they had treated as permanent entitlements. Owen appeared in the doorway. "Mom said you'd make pancakes." "I will." I found flour, eggs, and a bruised banana. Within 20 minutes, both children were eating banana pancakes at the table. Lily told me about a classmate who could whistle through a missing tooth. Owen showed me a drawing of a dragon wearing soccer cleats. Their laughter softened something in me, but it did not weaken my decision. I would make sure they were safe. I would not spend 4 days as a servant. While they ate, I entered Nathan's home office to look for a pen. Bills, credit card offers, and unopened envelopes covered the desk. A spiral notebook lay open beside the keyboard. Brianna's handwriting filled the page in dark, sharp strokes. Across the top, she had written, "Family 5-year plan." I would normally have closed it without reading. Then I saw my own name. The first line said, "Get Evelyn here for Thanksgiving. Free child care." The second said, "Start talking up Oregon winters and convince her Vermont is too isolated." The third said, "Sell Evelyn's house while market is strong." The fourth said, "Use proceeds for kitchen renovation, addition, and debt payoff." The fifth said, "Move her into downstairs room, full-time child care." A note in the margin read, "Nathan says she'll agree if we make it about seeing the grandkids." I read that sentence twice. My son had not merely failed to stop his wife, he had contributed strategy. For years I had worried that distance made me a bad mother and an absent grandmother. They had studied that fear and built a plan around it. In their future, my home disappeared, my money became theirs, and I slept downstairs waiting to be useful. I closed the notebook and carried it into the kitchen. I photographed every page that mentioned me, then placed it exactly where I had found it. The children had moved to the sofa. I called Brianna's mother, Helen. Helen lived 25 minutes away and prided herself on being practical. She had often excused Brianna's sharpness by saying her daughter was just direct. "Evelyn," she answered. "Aren't you in Vermont?" I arrived in Oregon this afternoon. Nathan and Brianna left me a Thanksgiving surprise. I have one for you as well. Could you come over? She hesitated. "Is everything all right?" "The children are fine. Please come as soon as you can." Helen arrived carrying a bakery box and wearing a raincoat the color of mustard. Her smile faded when she saw my coat buttoned, my suitcase upright, and my purse over my shoulder. "Where are Nathan and Brianna?" "At a mountain lodge." She stared at me. "They invited me across the country, under false pretenses, then left without asking me to babysit." I handed her the lavender clipboard. Helen read the first page, then the second. Color rose into her face. "She told you to scrub the bathroom?" "And fold her laundry by category." Helen looked toward the living room where Owen and Lily were building a fort from couch cushions. "I can't believe she did this." "I can." I gave her the children's routine, explained that they had eaten, and pointed out the emergency numbers on the refrigerator. Helen's eyes narrowed. "You're leaving?" "Yes. They need responsible care, and now they have it." "I had plans tomorrow." So did I. The answer was not cruel. It was simply true. Helen pressed her lips together. For years, she had protected Brianna from consequences. Now any objection would expose the same selfishness she had spent so long minimizing. "I'll stay," she said at last. "Thank you." At the front door, I noticed the spare key to the silver SUV hanging from the rack. I had bought that vehicle 3 years earlier after Brianna declared their older car unsafe for the children. I paid cash and kept the title in my name because Robert had taught me never to give away legal ownership while someone else was still proving responsibility. I took the key. The SUV sat in the driveway, clean and full of gas. My suitcase fit easily in the back. I waved to Owen and Lily through the window, promised to call them the next day, and drove toward the airport. Nathan called when I was halfway there. The suspended cellular line could not make ordinary calls, but he had connected to the lodge's Wi-Fi and used an internet calling service. His name appeared on the dashboard. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Mom, what did you do?" His voice had lost every trace of holiday cheer. "I'm driving." "The resort says the card declined. They already ran the deposit, and now they need a card for the room and incidentals. The account has $12. "Yes." "You moved the money?" "I reclaimed it." Brianna shouted in the background. "Tell her to put it back." Nathan lowered his voice. "Mom, we're standing in the lobby. People can hear us. This is humiliating." "The account was for emergencies." We needed time away. A massage is not a medical emergency. "We don't have enough available credit." "Then you cannot afford the trip." There was a pause, followed by frantic whispering. Nathan tried again. "Put the money back for one night. We'll come home tomorrow." "No." "Who's with the kids?" "Helen." Brianna's voice rose so sharply I could hear every word. "You called my mother?" "I also gave her your clipboard." Silence followed. Nathan understood first. "Where are you going?" "To the airport." "You can't leave. We flew you out here for a reason." "You deceived me for a reason." "Mom, stop being dramatic." I found the 5-year plan. This time, even Brianna went quiet. I continued before either of them could invent an explanation. "I know you planned to pressure me into selling my home. I know you intended to use the proceeds for renovations and debt. I know you expected me to provide full-time childcare in exchange for a basement bedroom." "That notebook is just ideas," Nathan said quickly. "Nothing was decided." "You wrote that I would agree if you used the grandchildren." He inhaled sharply. I had never heard guilt arrive through silence so clearly. "You will drive home," I said. "You will relieve Helen. You will not contact me again this week. You're ruining Thanksgiving." "No, Nathan, I am refusing to let you ruin mine." I ended the call. The rain thickened as I approached Portland International Airport. Each sweep of the wipers felt like a metronome keeping time with my pulse. I expected fear or regret to catch up with me. Instead, I felt a clarity I had not known in years. I parked the SUV in long-term parking on the 5th level, backed into a well-lit space, and photographed the row number. Then I locked the vehicle and dropped the key into my purse. The SUV belonged to me. I was not stealing it or hiding it. I was withdrawing permission for someone else to use my property. Before entering the terminal, I sent Nathan one final message through email. "The SUV is in long-term parking, level 5, row C. The keys are with me. Your mother-in-law is caring for the children. My money has been secured and your phone service is suspended. Do not come to Vermont without an invitation." I attached the parking photo, then blocked both of their email addresses for 7 days. At the ticket counter, I bought a seat on the next flight east. The woman printing my boarding pass glanced at my small suitcase. "Heading home for Thanksgiving?" I smiled. Yes, finally. My daughter, Marissa, met me in Burlington just after midnight. She was 42, steady, observant, and far less willing than I was to excuse Nathan's behavior. She took one look at my face, and then at the single suitcase. "You didn't stay." "I stayed long enough." On the drive home, I told her everything. The false invitation, the chore list, the resort, the emergency fund, the notebook. Marissa gripped the steering wheel harder when I described the plan to sell my house. "I warned you he was treating your kindness like income." "You did. I'm sorry." "Don't be. I needed to see it without anyone explaining it for me." Thanksgiving at Marissa's home felt almost unreal in its normalcy. Her husband, Daniel, hugged me at the door. Their teenage sons carried my bag upstairs without being asked. Nobody handed me instructions. Nobody announced what I owed them for being included. On Thursday morning, Marissa and I chopped onions while music played softly from the kitchen speaker. Daniel basted the turkey. The boys argued over a card game. I drank coffee from a chipped mug and realized I had spent years accepting crumbs from Nathan because I feared losing access to him. Love offered under threat is not love, it is leverage. Then I called an attorney. Her name was Dana Mercer, a calm woman with silver-framed glasses and a voice that made every fact sound manageable. We reviewed the account, the SUV title, my will, my power of attorney documents, and the deed to my house. You have been generous in ways that created exposure, she said, but the assets are still yours. We closed the joint emergency account permanently. I opened a new education trust for Owen and Lily that Nathan and Brianna could not access. I changed the beneficiary structure on my investment accounts. Marissa became my medical proxy, and Dana arranged for a professional fiduciary to oversee larger financial decisions if I ever became unable to manage them myself. I also rewrote my will. Nathan was not disinherited, but his share would be held in trust with strict protections. The grandchildren's education funds would bypass their parents entirely. Finally, I hired a transport company to collect the SUV from the airport and ship it to Vermont. A week later, it sat in my garage. I sold it in January and deposited the proceeds into the grandchildren's trust. Every item from their plan now had an answer. My house would not be sold for their renovation. My savings would not pay their debt. My car would not remain their convenience. My time would not become unpaid labor. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Nathan appeared on my porch. Snow had begun falling that morning, coating the steps and cedar shrubs. When the bell rang, I looked through the glass and saw him holding a small duffel bag. He wore a thin jacket unsuitable for Vermont and the strained expression of a man who had rehearsed apologies on an airplane. I opened the wooden door but kept the storm door locked. Mom? Why are you here? Can I come inside? It's freezing. You were told not to come without an invitation. His eyes dropped. I know. I didn't think you'd answer the phone. That was intentional. He shifted his weight. Things are bad. Brianna and I are fighting. We had to buy a used sedan with a high-interest loan. We're behind on 2 cards. Helen won't speak to Brianna. I came to apologize. I studied him. He looked tired, but tired was not the same as changed. What are you apologizing for? He opened his mouth, then closed it. For how Thanksgiving happened. That is not an answer. For leaving the kids with you. Without asking. Yes. And? For using the emergency account. And? His face tightened. For the notebook. You mean the plan to sell my home and use me as child care? Brianna wrote most of it. I felt something inside me settle. Go home, Nathan. Mom, wait. You flew across the country to blame your wife. I'm not blaming her, I'm explaining. You stood beside her at the door, you lied to me on the phone, you used my account. You told her I would agree if you used the children. Those were your choices. He gripped the strap of his bag. I was under pressure. You are 40 years old. I know. No, I don't think you do. Snow gathered on his shoulders. For a moment I saw the boy who used to wait for me outside elementary school, cheeks red from cold, trusting that I would always solve whatever hurt him. I loved that boy. I loved the man before me too, but love did not require me to pretend he was helpless. I am not cutting you out of my life, I said. I am cutting off the system that allowed you to exploit me. He looked up. There will be no more shared accounts. No bills paid in your name, no vehicles, no cash loans. You will not demand childcare. You will not use the children to pressure me. You and Brianna will never again discuss my house, my estate, or where I should live unless I invite the conversation. He nodded quickly. Fine, I agree. That is not enough. What else do you want? Accountability. You will send me a written list of every withdrawal from the emergency fund during the last 2 years and what it paid for. You will repay the resort charge and any other personal expenses in monthly installments. You will apologize to Helen. You will tell the children that my leaving was not their fault. And if Brianna wants a relationship with me, she will apologize without excuses or threats. Nathan stared through the glass. You already sold the SUV, didn't you? Yes. His jaw clenched before he controlled it. What about my share of Dad's money? Your father's money became my money when he died, just as the law and his will provided. Any inheritance you receive later will be determined by my estate plan, not your expectations. He looked genuinely ashamed then, perhaps because he hurt himself. I'm sorry, he whispered. I believe you are sorry you lost access. I do not yet know whether you are sorry for what you did." A tear slipped down his cheek. He wiped it away angrily. "Can we start over?" "We can start differently." "How?" "Call me next Sunday at 6. Not because you need money. Not because you need childcare. Call because you want to speak to your mother." He nodded. "There's an inn near the airport," I added. "I will not host you tonight." His face fell, but he did not argue. "Okay." I closed the door, locked it, and stood in the hallway listening to his steps retreat through the snow. I did not feel victorious. Boundaries are not victory over another person. They are a refusal to keep losing yourself. Nathan called the following Sunday at exactly 6. The first conversation lasted 11 minutes. He asked how much snow we had received. I asked about Owen's soccer team. Neither of us mentioned money. The next week he called again. By February, he had sent the accounting I requested. The truth was uglier than I expected. The emergency fund had paid for restaurant meals, a new television, Brianna's fitness membership, and several weekends away. There had been one real emergency, a plumbing repair. Everything else was consumption disguised as need. Nathan proposed repaying $200 a month. I accepted, not because the amount would restore what he took quickly, but because consistency mattered more than performance. Helen called me in March. Brianna had apologized to her after weeks of silence. According to Helen, the apology began badly, with explanations, but ended honestly. She said she thought everyone's love could be measured by what they were willing to do for her, Helen told me. I'm afraid I helped teach her that. So did I with Nathan. We both confused rescue with love. That spring, Brianna sent me a letter by regular mail. It contained no threats and no discussion of money. She admitted that the notebook was real. She wrote that she had imagined my house as unused wealth and my retirement as available time. She said she had resented my independence because it reminded her how dependent she and Nathan had become. I treated you like a resource instead of a person, she wrote. I am ashamed of that. I did not forgive her instantly. Real forgiveness is not amnesia, and trust does not regrow because someone finds the correct sentence. I replied with 4 lines. I received your letter. I appreciate the honesty. I am willing to speak by phone next month. Our relationship will move slowly and will not include financial support. She wrote back, I understand. In June, I flew to Oregon again, this time by choice. I stayed at a hotel. Nathan and Brianna met me for lunch in a small restaurant near the river. There were no suitcases by the door, no chore lists, and no surprise requests. Nathan looked healthier. Brianna looked nervous. They had entered credit counseling, canceled the resort memberships, and created a written budget. Nathan had taken weekend shifts. Brianna had sold several luxury items online. After lunch, we met Owen and Lily at a park. Lily ran into my arms so hard I nearly lost my balance. Owen showed me how he could kick a soccer ball with his left foot. Neither child asked why I had left Thanksgiving, because their parents had finally told them a version of the truth suitable for children. Grandma had been invited unfairly, and the adults had made a bad decision. That evening, Nathan asked whether I wanted to come to the house for dinner. Just dinner, he said. No jobs. I went. The kitchen was still outdated, the countertops were scratched, and one cabinet door hung slightly crooked. I had never seen it look better because, for the first time, nobody viewed my bank account as the solution. Brianna cooked pasta. Nathan washed the dishes. When Lily spilled juice, both parents cleaned it without glancing at me. Before I left, Nathan handed me an envelope containing the next 3 repayment installments. You can keep paying monthly, I said. I know, I wanted to catch up. I accepted the envelope. At the door, he hugged me. I miss how things used to be, he said. I don't. He pulled back, surprised. The old way was hurting all of us. I want something better. He nodded slowly. Me too. A year after the Thanksgiving ambush, I hosted dinner in Vermont. Marissa and her family came early. Nathan, Brianna, Owen, and Lily arrived the day before and stayed at a nearby rental they paid for themselves. Nathan brought groceries. Brianna asked before using my kitchen. Owen set the table. Lily made place cards covered in glitter. During dinner, nobody mentioned inheritance, sacrifice, or what I owed them. We talked about school, work, Robert's terrible jokes, and the time Nathan fell into a pond at age 10 while trying to rescue a plastic boat. After dessert, Nathan carried the plates to the sink. "Mom," he said quietly, "the final repayment transferred yesterday." I had already seen it in my account. "Thank you." "I know paying it back doesn't erase it." "No, but it proves you understand that it was not yours." He nodded. Brianna approached with 2 cups of tea. "We also removed you from every emergency contact that implied financial responsibility. The school still has your number, but only as family." That was wise. She looked toward the living room where the children were laughing with their cousins. "I used to think security meant having someone who would always save us," she said. "Now I think it means knowing we can handle our own lives." That is a much safer kind of security. Later that night, after the house had gone quiet, I stood at my kitchen window, watching snow settle over the yard. My home remained mine, my savings were secure. My family was still imperfect. But it was finally honest. I had not saved us by giving more. I had saved what could be saved by refusing to disappear. Love had survived the boundary because real love could stand on its own.